Bonjour, mon nom est Maude, je suis l'animatrice comme à l'habitude de l'Énergivore en direct. Aujourd'hui, on commence l'épisode avec un petit avertissement. Malheureusement, l'audio de nos micros ont été corrompus lors de cet épisode-là. On a dû aller retrouver l'audio des caméras que nous avions sur place. Sachez que c'est pas parfait, mais on voulait quand même vous offrir la chance d'avoir accès à ces belles discussions-là. Jay et Ralph ont vraiment été généreux avec leur ouverture sur certains sujets de discussion, donc on préférait vous l'offrir quand même. Donc, aussi d'être conscient que c'est la première fois qu'on faisait un podcast en direct avec une audience. Donc, il y a certains bruits ambiants qui sont additionnels, étant donné en plus que c'était l'audio des caméras. J'espère que vous allez quand même apprécier l'épisode. Je vous souhaite vraiment une bonne écoute. L'Énergivore en direct.
So today the team is beyond the marathon. Of course, you guys know it's marathon weekend in Montreal. So the goal here is to talk about how mental health is related with sports in general. And today we're going to talk specifically about running and how doing long endurance runs can influence your mental strength, how we can help to give you a little advices about that, and how running in general is related to mental health. Yeah, so I presented myself. I'm gonna let Mary present herself.
So, I'm a personal trainer. I'm also a bikini fitness athlete. And I have my bachelor in psychology, so I'm like a geek of everything about like mindset and pushing your limits and like exploring your mind differently. So yeah, joining the podcast is like just my passion.
That's where she joined.
Yeah.
And now we have our guests for today, so I'm gonna let them present themselves.
Okay, go ahead, Ralph. Oh, yeah. So, hi, everyone. I guess most of you do know me, but I'm Ralph. I'm an ultra runner. I've been in this space for about 2-3 years now. That's pretty much my life. A lot of endurance runs and kind of pushing limits and seeing kind of where the body and the mind can go. So, essentially, I started back in 2022 when I started with a 75-kilometer run across Montreal. Back with a community run that we did at the time, and since then there was a lot of other runs that kind of piled up, and I hope to go into that and maybe try and inspire people today who are attempting their first marathon. So, great to meet everyone.
Nice. My name is Jeremy, or Jay. I started running about 2 years ago, and as some of you might know, it completely transformed my life. I really got into the physiology of running and the exercise science behind it, because initially I did a degree in kinesiology, exercise science. So it kind of brought me back to that aspect of anatomy, physiology, all that. And started making videos online. I started to really like making videos online, storytelling, and just sharing whatever I feel like sharing. And now I guess I do consider myself a content creator now. Quit my job a few weeks back, and I'm a full-time coach and content creator. So
Congrats!
Thank you.
And I think you guys know each other from before. So how did you guys met?
You can go into that.
So-
explain.
Yeah, as we got into the Instagram space of, okay, there's some followers, there's some runners in Montreal, I'm gonna follow them, see what's up. I was still new to that.
Yeah, we were like much smaller back in the day. This was about a year ago. That's when you reached out to me.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. And then I started following you, Ralph, and one of his stories was like, oh, I'm gonna be on the Mount Royal staircase for the next 16 hours, so if you wanna come.
So it was at the time I said, okay, I want to do a 60-kilometer run just on stairs purely. And what I do most of the time is like I'll post on a story and say anyone who wants to join me is crazy enough to do so.
That's
Come through, and
crazy.
he saw it, and we didn't know each other, right? Complete strangers.
Yeah.
Just one day just pulled up on the stairs.
Showed up.
Remember, I was dead at the time.
Yeah.
I was pretty locked in and beyond. And
He had his
it was-
earphones, he was looking down, he was just going up the stairs. I don't even know him, but hey, Ralph from Instagram.
Yeah.
That's how we
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you guys met by a common passion and through social media.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah, that's exactly it.
And
Came 1 year later. He came to essentially the same challenge, but
Yeah.
like the harder version of it. But
Every time you would post something, I would try to swing by after.
oh, really? But are you doing the same thing as him though?
I'm not. I'm definitely not. I'm staying for an hour. That's my workout. And I let him go for the next 20, 30 hours.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's always love to see that support, people like coming through and supporting each other. So Jay's been there through that. So it's good to
Actually,
see.
with the podcast, we have a team which is in French, l'athlète énergivore. For in English, we're gonna say energy-consuming athlete. And basically, I've realized as I've been doing my workouts and my sports and trying triathlons that the more you consume energy as you work out, the more you want to consume energy. So that's why I'm telling like energy-consuming athlete. And I was wondering, do you guys relate with that term?
I think so. I think before doing endurance sports, I would do mostly strength training, and it wouldn't necessarily give me that much energy, maybe a little bit. But with endurance sport, there's this thing where you can run maybe for 5 or 10 hours a week, and it
Yeah.
actually gives you energy. So I do.
Yeah, you want to do more. That's what's crazy about
I've definitely firsthand seen that
Yeah.
in terms of, I assume back in the day, let's say before 2021, when I reached kind of a low point in my life where sports wasn't there, I actually felt like most of the time I had no energy. I was always lacking motivation, lacking discipline to go outside, and very, very lethargic, slow. And then it's weird because then when I got into the endurance world, you'd expect I'd be spending so much energy, I would expect to feel sort of down, but I actually have most of the time way more energy, and I find that I'm able to do more and more stuff, and even stuff in my own personal life, so my career too, along with the running.
Actually, from a psychological view, as you work out, you have a higher dopamine level, dopamine and serotonin actually, which is both the hormones that give you more energy and more joy in your life too. And it can also be an equivalent to like antidepressive medication too, in a way, but like depends on how your depression is going, of course. Like I don't want to say it's like the faster you do it, but yeah, like that's why it gives you more energy as a whole because it's what sports do.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and also the podcast is about mental health and sports. So I was wondering, what's your relationship with mental health?
You want to go ahead, Ralph?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, there was kind of a really down time in my life back in 2021 when I was facing a lot of issues, whether it was family issues or personal issues that it brought me to a point where I gained like a lot of weight, and my mental health was also completely crap. Right, it was really, really at the lowest point, and I found that like I used running as a tool to kind of escape that, start building my mental strength, my mental health, and kind of start taking.
Normally crazy athletes like us.
Yeah,
It's a way to escape something.
Yeah, so it's for sure it was a mixture of an escape, but also allowed me to sometimes think about those things during these like long endurance challenges. But it built up my mental strength and mental health over time, and like I felt like I'm able to more easily tackle difficult things that are in my life. Like
It builds
besides the running,
resilience.
yeah.
That's
The
the term I want
resilience
to
is
use. Yeah.
definitely the term there. But yeah, for sure, it's like highly connected. I think the physical and the mental aspect are very much intertwined.
And we're going to talk a bit about it later, how it's related also to marathon, because as you do high endurance sports, you need to have a lot of resilience to go through all that's going through your mind during your race. So we're going to talk about it a bit later. But before, JY, what's your relationship with mental health?
It's essentially the whole reason I started running. So I was a huge party guy before.
Oh yeah!
Yeah, it was.
Little bodybuilder party guy.
Like-
Sorry, I'm saying.
It was, yeah. And it's funny because my good friends
It's,
know
it's
this.
not always at the same time though. I used to be a
Yeah.
party girl, but now that I'm a bodybuilder, I'm not partying.
Right? It's like you can't.
Partying sober.
So this lifestyle of like partying all the time crashed me to the ground. It made me like feel like I was like the king of the world, and then a few years later, I was down in the pit, and so I started running for my mental health and not for my physical health. I didn't really mind about getting a better cardio. It was just about going out there and doing something difficult that you would feel rewarded after. That was like the only reason why I wanted to go run. And then later on, performance came or whatever, other goals. But the whole reason was to just get out there and free my mind, basically.
If you look at it with like the partying effect, like
Yeah.
when you party, you're looking to like fill a hole in the way and to feel that dopamine level. But with sports, when you do like high endurance level sports and you do hours and hours of training, kind of gives you the same energy, but not the same effects to your body afterwards. Because when you're consuming, like let's say alcohol or like drugs, it's basically putting
Depressed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
depressors and toxics.
And from the mental side, I mean, that's the physical.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the mental side as well is like you're comparing like instant gratification sort of, compared to like let's say delayed
Yes,
gratification, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Where that's a lot more fulfilling, like working towards something that's like hard,
Exactly.
and then fulfilling that is like much more of a rewarding experience as opposed to instant gratification where you get to eat what you
Yeah.
want or drink or do whatever drugs
As
you
soon
want.
as your hangover is there anyway, you
Yeah,
regret.
yeah.
You regret.
The consequences too, right?
It's
So
kinda, like
yeah, it's-
in a sociological kind of way, we are all like that right now. We are looking for instant gratification, and what puts us apart as athletes is that we put a lot of work in, and we're not only doing it for trends like most people can do right now. And the way like people are always looking for something quick, like something that can give them quick dopamine, like social media. When you look at your phone, I formed myself for when I worked at Youth House. When you look at your phone, it gives you 10 times the dopamine a normal interactions would do. Like, let's say we're texting, okay, and you're responding to me, I would be like, yes, you responded.
Right.
But let's say we're talking right now, and you respond to me, I wouldn't be like, yes, you responded, you know?
Thought, yeah.
Yeah, it gives you 10 times the dopamine level. So when you go into your daily life, you're always looking for that dopamine level. So that's why you look for instant gratification, you know? So that's why as athletes, we build a mental strength because we're working on the resilience to not always have instant gratification, you know?
and that because that threshold starts rising and rising,
Yeah.
right? It's the same like let's say drug addicts, right?
Yeah.
You take a little bit of drugs, then you need more to get to that same high. But it's the same
Yeah.
with instant gratification. That like I went through that path back in 2020 to 2021, and that was such a for me meaningless path and brought me so much depression. Even though in the moment it felt always good to eat like shit or like do what I wanted, and at the end of it, it was like it brought me down such a bad downward spiral, and I had to start from rock bottom and build all the way back up again. But
And it's hard to get out of that. So
Yeah, that's-
congrats for getting out of that spiral too.
Yeah.
It is hard, yeah.
Yeah.
It is hard to get out of.
You were in it too then.
Yeah. The party life brought me to, essentially, I didn't know it at the time, but depression and anxiety. And when I started seeing a psychologist months later, I was already on the way up, but I was feeling about how I felt in the past year. And she was like, those are signs of depression. Oh, okay, that was going on,
And is that why you started running too?
Yeah, it was all together connected for sure, and it was hard to accept. It's like I always saw myself as a positive person, people person, and now I want to stay more at home. Not now, but when that happened 2-3 years ago, I want to stay more at home. I'm a little more sensible to sensitive to.
Yourself, or
I promised myself that I did not want to isolate, so therefore I would go out, but it would take so much social battery out of me. Whereas usually when I'm feeling good, some of you know me, it's super easy for me to go out. All of a sudden it's hard. So yeah, running definitely helped in the going back up basically.
nice. And what kind of runners are you guys? Like, you guys are doing very different things.
Yeah, I mean,
I know, like-
you're a specialized marathon, and you want to go beyond
I'll
it.
start
But,
first, so I'm kind of good, and then
You see,
it's the more reasonable, and then maybe have the unreasonable.
he's crazy.
So
Crazy.
No,
let me take my
Passionate,
advice with
passionate.
word of caution, but yeah, it's kind of the
yeah,
levels there.
I've been asking myself the question, what type of runner I am. Do I want to commit to the mile, to the 5K, to the marathon? And the truth is I love it all. And I never want to commit to one because I'm having so much fun exploring all these distances, these challenges. And I'm also driven by content creation. So if something is a good idea for content, it makes it fun, then I'm willing to do it. So if I have kind of a light view, and then sometimes I'll try to race to perform for fun, but it's always in the back of my mind, it's fun first and just enjoying the process.
That's good because right now,
Yeah.
like social media, I've seen your account, and it's not focused on performance as much as other athletes on social media.
Well, I'm not an elite, but thank
I
you.
mean, it's a compliment.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank
you
you.
put it realistically in your account.
So someone could give you like a challenge,
Yeah.
and you could decide just to do it, like on Instagram, for example,
Yeah, I mean,
like something
Yeah.
crazy or
So,
something. that
do we
people
find
are
a challenge for him right now?
I can't think
Start
about
brainstorming.
always trying to think about, challenges where I use 4 videos. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but it's always in the back of my mind. And we're going to make a fun video.
That's good. And you're doing marathons too, as you said.
Yeah, anywhere from the mile to marathon, and I have projects of going longer distances, but I'm a little all over the place in terms of
Ultra
distances.
or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm preparing.
It's interesting now.
Anyways, yeah, I'm preparing 100K, but it's a personal project of mine, and I haven't really talked about it yet online. So I'll
You have the exclusive content then.
yeah,
Yeah.
like something more intimate, and I'll share it later on.
Perfect. Do you have other projects coming up?
The half marathon this weekend, and then a few smaller races across October, and then before the year ends, I'll try to run 100K, and I'll document it and share it with you guys. Just
Wow.
yeah, for now, I'll keep it at that.
Congrats.
Thank you.
What about you?
Talking about 100K.
Be ready, guys.
Yeah, obviously take my sort of advice with a word of caution there. Like, don't go and obviously attempt necessarily some of the stuff I'm doing. It took a lot of preparation and it took a lot of battles, like physical and mental battles, where there was times I was closer to injury and then I had to deal with that. Because the whole idea behind what I do is really pushing it to the absolute extreme in terms of like way past your the psychological limits, but really to the actual limits of the human body and mind. And that's my journey, kind of, because I'm conducting kind of my own self-experiment. And at the end of the day, I'm also a scientist. Like I study engineering, and so
Oh, really?
I always conduct experiments from my own lab to like even on myself. Per
So
se.
you're your own lab rat.
Yeah, essentially, right? If you want to look at it that way, this is kind of the gist of it. But yes, like I said, I started running back in 2021 as a form just to lose weight, because I gained a lot of weight during kind of COVID period. I went through a pretty depressive period there. And then within 4 months, I lost close to 25 kilograms. Like I lost a lot of weight, around over 50 to 60 pounds, just through running and some strength training as well. But it became basically an addiction, and I wanted to, for me, I wanted to get to a point that I was happy with myself. But I knew it wasn't just about the weight. It became like a very mental thing with me and kind of therapeutic. But I didn't get into ultra running until November of 2022. When a friend at the time kind of convinced me to try my first ultra marathon. Bear in mind, I thought this was absolutely nuts. I only at max I did a marathon, and even then it wasn't really an official one. The only other official race I'd done was the Beneva half. So, but they were convincing me, saying, "Yo, try it out. It's a run from one end of Montreal to the other, 75K." I was super intimidated. At the time I was somewhat normal. I was very intimidated. I thought it was ridiculous. But I went out there that day. I just tried it. I said, whatever happens, happens. And, if I have to stop, I stop. But something that day, definitely clicked in me. And I love this idea of endurance. And when I did that day, and I was surprised I was able to do a distance like that, I was like, wow, so how much can I do? Where is that limit? I was able to do it. And it felt like, there was even still something left in the tank. So I kind of went on my own journey from there. I did solo 100K. I signed up for a 100-miler. I did that as a real race. 160 kilometers. I did it back in last year. And I did the same race again this year. I love it. It's called Sulphur Springs in Hamilton.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of crazy sort of
75
races.
kilometers is nothing.
No, I mean, it was hard at the time. Everything is hard in its own respect at the time you're doing it. The marathon for the first time was hard. The half was hard. Back in 2021, when I did the half, the Beneva, I was dead for the rest of the day. I went and I was at home, almost passed out, super nauseous, and that was the half. So it's everything has its own place and time. Everyone can build it up.
Yeah.
It just takes time and effort.
That's actually an important point to bring up right now, because as you look at marathon weekend and you look at all the experienced marathoners or runners, and then you look at yourself and you don't have the experience yourself, you can kind of judge yourself, especially with social media right now.
There's no need, right? It's just
Yeah.
everyone was there at some point, right? People say, how do you do all these crazy distances? But it's just 3-4 years ago, I could barely even. They were doing 10Ks, and that was extremely really hard for me,
If you've never
So
run in
it's
your
a
life,
build-up. It's consistency,
something,
I'm just extremely consistent over long periods of time. So for me, some of the challenges were last year I did 7 marathons, 7 days. It was a solo thing, and then a lot of stuff like that. But the absolute biggest thing coming up for me is now in October. It's the hardest kind of month of my life. I have a lot of running related
What's
stuff.
coming in October?
So it's 3 back-to-back big events. But this is what I've been training for. So
What are the events?
I started a year ago. Essentially.
We're here. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I want to know.
Yeah, like a year ago, I started a training plan to run 650 kilometers from Toronto to Montreal, and that's coming up for me in October. It's, that's that. But I start on October 23rd, it's actually at 9 p.m., and I'll run from Toronto to Montreal over the next 9 days and finish by November 1st at essentially the top of Mount Royal. And that's something I've been
So be
training
there,
for.
guys.
So yeah, you want to show
Be
up
there.
and just support? It's
Yeah.
super cool.
We
But
can do a little
So,
event. Meet
no.
Ralph.
hopefully, I'll recognize what's going on. I'll be a little
And
lost.
actually, you
At that point,
meet Ralph at
But it's,
Montreal.
it's essentially I've been training, like the whole training plan was 355 days exactly, and I'm only like 37 days out, you know. So it's like it's all through the winters, all the solo runs, all the ultras were part of that. But that's the one in like late October. I have 2 things coming up before then.
Oh yeah, 2 other things.
So it's say smaller, but they're also hard in their own sense. But they're like my last training runs. In 2 weeks, we have a 24-hour run. We're running on a 400-meter track. It's actually right there. He's wearing that top. It's called 24-hour mental. And
Men's
it's
mental
yeah,
health,
men's
yeah.
mental health and suicide prevention is the cause, and a lot of people will be there. So if you're interested, just passing by, doing 5 minutes, just do 1 lap with us, 2 laps with us. Me and a couple buddies will attempting the full 24 hours. Some people are doing 10 hours, but it's the same lap. I think it's an Etienne Desmarteau track. So you want to pass by. It's like a really, really good initiative.
Actually, we don't talk a lot about men's mental health.
Yeah, it's definitely like
Yeah.
when I saw that cause, and Kirk, the person who started this whole project, explained to me how important it is, because he said that basically out of like all the suicides that occur, is it 3 in 4 or something? 3 in 4 are roughly men suicidal like attempts. So it's definitely something of concern. And when we talk about their emotional side and things like you think people are good, and then out of nowhere.
But the thing is,
So
let's say as women, we learn that emotions are okay. They're encouraged, but as a man, it's not like that too.
yeah.
Like I work at a family house. If you don't know the term, it's in French, so the translation is not as good. But I work with families, and when I see the fathers, they don't even know what to do with their kids sometimes. And it's hard for them to talk about parenting, let's say, or their own mental health in the process of having a kid. So I can imagine how like other men are having the same process and want to like just end their life there because they don't know how to talk about it. They just bottle it up and they don't have any help.
Yeah,
It's not normalized to go.
Always the stigma.
yeah, that's true.
How do you guys live with men's mental health?
I agree, and even though I have a certain facility, I'm okay with sharing my emotions, generally speaking. But even with my friends, my male friends. But when I hit like rock bottom and I didn't even know that I was depressed, I was just like, I don't want to go out. And then, as I said later on, I discovered that I had depression and anxiety. I didn't share it much with friends and family, and it was very subconscious. I didn't take the decision like, oh no, I'm not going to share it. It didn't feel right to share it. And then when I started doing better for myself and having better mental health, then it was easier for me to start on social media talking about having the discussion because I'm in a much better place. But when you're down there, I feel like it's very counterintuitive as men to have that discussion.
It's also that sometimes talking about that with family or friends is not the best thing to do because they might not have the best advice for you. Like, psychotherapists there, or like it's their job. They're there to listen to you, to help you through that. So like it can be a good reflex also to keep it from you and just like trying to analyze more and like share it with a good person, the right person.
Yeah, somebody who's not maybe close to you,
Exactly.
so you can feel more comfortable. So to speak.
Yeah, because they have another point of view. Your wife has her own opinion or her own bias on like how she sees your own situation, you know? But when you talk about someone that doesn't even know you, it's different. Like they're just there to listen to you and be like, okay, you're going through that. That's valid. Let's go through it.
Yeah, you have a
They
good
don't
point.
have an opinion. They are reflecting what you are saying. So you are opening your eyes on your own words and feelings.
Mhm. That's why I went to see a psychologist at some point. Yeah, I was like, I think I really need it. I was very lucky to have a job that paid like most because it is expensive also.
Yeah.
So I said, no,
In
okay.
public, there's wait lists.
Right, yeah.
But for months, years sometimes, yeah.
And I I felt it's ironic that we speak about men's mental health versus maybe the expectations of a female or a woman, but I wanted to have a woman as a psychologist. It felt more like,
Homie.
yeah,
Yeah,
welcoming,
like your mom.
Yeah, I guess exactly. So I'm happy I did, and I only had a few appointments with her, maybe like 6 or 7, but it made a big difference in my vision and getting better.
They are giving tools. So you take the tools, you say what you need to say, and you open your eyes on what you want to open it, and then just move on and keep going.
Yeah, like a springboard, and then you go.
Yeah, exactly. But
really.
you're not obligated to take all of them too. Like normally,
Yeah, exactly.
what I do as I don't know, as a social worker. I'm not a social worker yet, but it's the simpler term in English. So basically, like I give them tools, but they have their own way of putting them into priority. They're not obligated to do them all at the same time, you know. So a therapist is there to like give the tools in your hand, and then you have the own choice to fix or not your life. Basically. What about you?
Yeah, you're very open about it. For me, it's very difficult. I say it until now. Sometimes that's really reluctant with therapy and everything like that. I tend to go more to the side of like talking to family and friends, and I have some really close friends of mine. It's in the audience today, but like I talk more about my issues with. But it's definitely like if I had to encourage it to people, like, that's the way to go. Right? It's not always to bottle it up. Personally, I steal my own a lot of like things that I don't talk about openly on social media. It's more very personal, but it's definitely a way to go, right? It's the professional path, and like I completely agree with that. So even though it's not necessarily what I'm doing regularly, but it's like I would encourage people to go down that path, especially like if they had a lot of trauma or past issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because running can be like.
Yeah, no,
So I know
that's
it can
what
be
I
in
was
a state,
gonna
it can
say.
be therapeutic, but still like there's some issues to still solve, right? So,
But
but
you're stuck
you need
with
kind of
your
make
mind.
sure of
You're
both.
stuck with yourself when you're
Yeah.
running. So at some point, you need to get comfortable. It's like just you and you.
It's you versus yourself.
Yeah.
So how do you combat yourself in a way?
During the runs, per se.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I think like the running, there's sort of ups and downs, like times where I'll think more back to my issues. Sometimes it's very therapeutic where I don't think of anything, and not a single thought will be
Oh,
passing,
wow.
and it will become sort of a meditative space. Yeah, it becomes
Not
very
able to do
meditative.
that at all.
Especially, I mean, if you run for whatever ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm singing when I'm doing my supposed to like dissociate my
So-
mind from the thing I'm doing. So I'm in my bike like 90 kilometers in. I'm like, feel the rain.
That's therapy right there.
Mindfulness is
Yeah.
amazing. Like,
So it's a mixture of both, right? I think sometimes in my runs it could be very much dissociate, and it's somewhat like freeing of the mind. And sometimes I say, oh, I want to focus on an issue. I want to see how I could solve it or how I can address it. And for sure, like recently in my life, there's a lot more progress now. In like last like 2-3 months, where I'm starting to address some of my issues, and so that's that's like definitely like a benefit for me. You know? So it's helped. It's for sure like helped me out of like a lot of things. So.
And on that note, I heard that like just going for a walk or a run is better to go in your mind and think about an issue or a problem and solve it. Like if you just stay at home and think about it, you're gonna overthink. If you just go for a walk or run something else, you will find solution more easily. Look stupid, but like
No, it's true.
Just
It's,
go for it.
Even just
Go for a
breathing,
walk.
it just opens up your mind because when you're what I was talking before, like dissociating my mind when I was like being tired on my bike, for example, is the same thing when you have a lot of problems. Like you're in your head, you're thinking about them a lot, then it all like tumbles in together and you don't know what to do with them.
You just need to move
You
on.
just need to do something about it. Just dissociate your brain from it. Even just fake smile, I swear it gives dopamine or serotonin, sorry. It gives serotonin to your brain and it changes
I
your,
agree.
it's crazy how
Especially on
your brain
days
works.
where it's like I feel lower. It's like
Yeah.
I will just
Look
try.
at the mirror and be like,
Yeah. Affirmations, but yeah, especially that, right? And using
Yeah.
runs to just kind of boost my mood to then address whatever I need to address.
And normally you're gonna say like, I don't want to go on my run, but afterwards I feel better.
Yeah.
That's
99% of the time, yeah.
yeah, it's true. Well, let's talk about the marathon now because we've talked about mental strain, and now we can relate it to the marathon. So I would ask you guys, what role would you attribute to the mental strain during your marathon and to the physiological aspect of like prepping for your marathon?
Wow.
Yeah,
I think
that's a
it's
big question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, because both have roles, but they differentiate between.
The way I see it is, I think a lot of beginner runners
Yeah.
will think that mental strength is going to carry them through whatever, and they're underestimating the importance of having good physiology and being well trained. And I think that very pro athletes know that there's very high physiological limits, that you can't run 4 hours at 90% of your max heart rate. It's not physiologically possible, right? So I thought as a beginner runner that I could just push through everything, but you hit some physiological walls and you feel it. So I think that physiology is super, super important. Actual training is super important. Also mental health, mental like fortitude.
Yeah.
But the physiology is the actual limitation of the machine, and then the mind can take it elsewhere. But I think people overestimate. I'm just gonna tough it out.
Yeah.
There's some.
Not realistic.
I completely agree. I think what happens is the longer the distance, the more the mental side. In ultra running, the mental becomes more of a problem. But something as the marathon distance is very physiological, right? Like you don't want your heart rate to be extremely high for like those extended periods of time. Whereas in ultra running, most of the time your heart rate isn't that high, right? Like you might be going quite slow, but then what will stop you is the mental aspect. Yeah. So like most ultra runners, like they're going at a pace where they're going to be zone 2 or whatever that pace is for them. But it's about getting that done. But for the marathon, it's like definitely the physiological, right? Getting the VO2 max to the right state, like so you're where you need to be, and then within the race itself, like fueling strategies are super important. The zone that you're in, right? If you decide, okay, you want to stay in zone 3 the entire run, and then that's fine. But if you realize your zone or your heart rate is fluctuating massively, and you're going 180, 190, you can't sustain that. No matter how mental that will be, it's just you will almost like pass out.
And
So that's where it's a mix of the two, right?
Would you say also nutrition plays a role into the physiological aspect?
Yeah. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. If you want
Yeah,
sort of nutrition.
I mean, yeah, that's
We
your
know-
job.
Yeah.
We know now that like the more carbs you consume, usually it equals to better performance. So it becomes also a game of training your gut and training your fueling during your preparation, so that when you have a big race, you're not afraid to take gels, take supplements to make sure you have enough carbs. But it's very real, and I think also I was talking about beginners. If I go back to beginners again, they think that you can just tough it out, but at some point, again, physiological barriers of carbohydrates, glycogen storage. It's like the red flags are being like triggered in the body if you don't.
Such
Yeah,
train
that's
that in
why the-
advance, right? That's what people say
Yeah.
is 60 grams of carbs per hour, up to
Yeah.
maybe an ultra, sometimes 100 grams and it's higher.
Is it why the wall occurs? You know the infamous wall?
Like 20 miles, 22 miles.
Yeah, 30K.
Yeah,
Yeah.
30 more.
Possible. It's one of the possible reasons, probably one of the main ones. But it's also possible to hit the wall even if you're fueling properly, because it's so many things happening in the body. So I've personally hit the wall pretty hard, even though I was fueling like very aggressively. I was prepared. I was fueling on 60 grams of carbs per hour. So that means a gel every 25 minutes or so. So like you're really downing gels, and still after like 2 hours, I was like, oh shit.
What happened?
I think I overestimated my capacity and I started a little too hot. And then physiology again got back to me. I can't hold 185 beats per minute for 3 hours. Therefore, at one point, I'm going to have to slow down. So, yeah.
That's where the physiological part and then the mental works. The physiological is like, okay, what will be your pace that is associated with your heart rate zone? So if let's say 5 minute per kilometer pace is like 160 for you, and then you can maintain that for the whole race. Or 5 minute per kilometer could be 190. That's not sustainable. But then the mental part is like, now, okay, 5 minute per kilometer is 160. Can you actually stay at that 160 beats per minute? It's likely you can, and like if your mental side of it is there, you can stay for that. Maybe that's where the mental part is, like that grit to stay at that heart rate for that period of time, right?
What would be the best advice you would give your younger runner self for a marathon, let's say?
You want to start?
Yeah, I'm gonna go super cheesy. I made it in my name, Jason. I would prioritize zone 2 training and just zone 2 is a complicated term just to say easy run. So if you start running or you're new to running and you look like really fast and good, you're probably going too fast. You should look like you're an older man or an older woman. You should look like you're just going super slow. So
Get speed while running.
exactly, just keep while running. Make sure you're comfortable. You're not becoming all red and all amped up. You're under control. So
During your training runs. And I guess for me, I'll give slightly the flip side of that. So this is 80% of the time, and then the 20% of the time, which is something maybe I've neglected because I always just basically ran slow until one of like the great runners in Montreal, his name's John, told me, he's like, you really need to get more interval training, right? It could be hill sprints or interval training. Some VO2 max, just like, once a week. And that, yes, it may put pressure in terms of you might get injured because it's aggressive, but it's worth at least like, VO2 max is like you're getting to where your heart rate may be starting to reach zone 4, zone 5, right? Really. So that's, you're pushing the VO2 to the max. Your heart's really being pushed to the max. So it could be whatever intervals of like 1K, like fast, and then like short, like slow down, another 1K. So it could be intervals of that. So it's not necessarily 100-meter intervals, but I recommend like 1 kilometer intervals. Push the pace, just one session a week. Do 5 kilometers, 1 kilometer times 5, and sort of session at VO2 max or high heart rate. Zone 4, zone 5.
So basically being able to be in tune with your own body as you run and respecting your own limits too. Like not expecting to be as fast as the person in front of you.
You build it over time. If you follow a pattern like that of 80% zone 2 and then at like 20% where you'll have like very fast runs, like that interval training, and over time that consistency just naturally grows and you have first-hand seen it, just getting even better and better runs.
I like that we come to, like, my tip to my younger self is like a lot of zone 2.
Yeah.
Mine's like not enough,
But
they're fast runs.
It's not like
Go faster, do intervals.
but they're both good. Yeah, I'm not saying you just do that.
But they complement each other. Like if you have,
That's right.
when you do long runs, normally your heart rate should be lowered because your body cannot be always high for as long as you said.
Exactly,
No?
exactly.
So when you do long run, you should practice your zone 2 because you also practice your mental strain because you're used to doing like, let's say 5Ks at 5 minutes interval, let's say, and then when you do your long run, it's very long compared to that. But you need to get used to that.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're opposing each other, actually.
No, it's
No,
I
it's
say
not.
I say it's the 80-20 rule. It's not really 50-50. It's 80% what he's doing and then
The
20%.
recuperation is super interesting also with the interval because your body is like going through like really your max, but then you're going slowly and like it's important for your body to go through that, like to learn how to respond to that. At the same pace, it's like you need to do both.
Yeah, exactly.
We find you adapt over time, like maybe what your zone 2 pace was before, or let's say your zone 4 pace before, which could be 5 minutes per kilometer, now has become your zone 2 pace.
Yeah.
Then you can actually push,
Just
and
need to
that's
be realistic
happening over
with
time, right? And I think most of us know that. So over time, it's
Guys, it's actually right now the end of the podcast
okay.
already.
That's right.
Already.
Thank you so much.
But before it ends, I'm just gonna ask you guys, how did you enjoy your experience in the podcast?
Yeah, sure. It was my first podcast ever.
Yeah.
I had no expectations. I'm like, let's just come in, have a chat. That's exactly what we did. And yeah, thanks for having us.
For me, that's super sick.
Yeah?
I like the conversational style of this
Yeah, I like
podcast. For me, I've had more interview sessions where they ask me direct questions and give my responses based on my experiences. But this sort of conversational part of it, super cool.
Perfect. And before it ends, let's just give a huge round of applause for Vite, which hosted.
Yes.
C'était l'Énergivore en direct.